Welcome to another episode of Perfectly Planted, where we dive deep into the stories of extraordinary individuals transforming health, wellness, and performance from the inside and out. Today, we are thrilled to have with us someone whose personal journey from burnout to resilience is nothing short of inspiring. Stacey Nievweija is not just a registered nurse and endurance athlete. She's a certified health coach, running coach, and yoga teacher on a mission to foster athletic longevity through the lens of health resilience. Nearly a decade ago, Stacey experienced a holistic burnout that left her unable to work and struggled in many areas of her life, despite her vast knowledge as a nurse. After navigating her way through this challenging chapter, she now helps others balance sports, health, and recovery with her joy before fear mantra as her guide. From completing ultra endurance races like the Keys 100 to deepening her understanding of sleep, stress management, and recovery, Stacey has equipped herself with an impressive range of certifications in nutrition, sports coaching, and wellness. Her story is a powerful reminder that grit alone isn't enough. True resilience comes from building a sustainable foundation of both body and mind. Stacey, welcome to Perfectly Planted. We are thrilled to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
So that intro has quite a bit of information, but let's go back to years when you decided to become a registered nurse. What triggered you to want to take on that career path? And then ultimately, what triggered you to make that decision of change?
Sure. So being a nurse was not a calling for me. It was simply a solution to a problem. I had gotten my bachelor's degree in soil science and went to go get my master's, and then realized that my job was I wanted to work for the government. I wanted to work for agricultural sustainability, but I realized my job was always going to dictate where I lived. And my life situation at that time, that was not going to work, being a mom of a young son and about to become a single mom. And so I started looking for careers of what could I do that had lots of mobility, but also would allow me to pursue my love of science and work with people. One thing that I struggled with where I was going with my soils career is it was a lot of time on my own. It was very isolating, a lot of time out in the field and then a lot of time in the lab. And I love my introversion, but I also love to be extroverted and be around people. So nursing, if you look at all the boxes, seemed like the right choice for me to do. However, it was not something natural for me. I was very squeamish when I was becoming a CNA. I actually passed out in a patient's room when I assisted a nurse with an abdominal dressing change. And the people that knew me well, when I said, "Hey, I'm going to be a nurse," they're like, "You sure about that?" I'm not sure that's the best idea. But I just stuck through it, and that's just what I ended up doing for a career for a while.
Awesome. And then when you made the change from nursing to being, focused on health and wellness, what oftentimes I find that people will think about what they want to go do, but it takes great courage to actually do it. So what triggered you to make that leap of faith and change career paths?
Sure. It's a series of circumstances. And I agree, it does take courage. And most often with change in general, for any of us, it becomes when the current situation is no longer tolerable and the fear of making change is actually the easier thing to do. Where you're at is just so full of friction that you're just like, okay, now I'm going to go for it. I'm going to change. And you just go with that fear. You just move along with it. And something I noticed while I was a nurse, at first I thought I was part of the solution and I was helping people get better. And sure, when you're on the floor, you can make a difference in someone's life, and your decisions, depending on what kind of unit you work on. I worked, on a acute care trauma unit. I worked in units that had kidney, lost my words.
Dialysis?
Transplants, kidney transplants.
Uh-huh.
And, so a lot of the patients that I took care of, they were very, very involved, very high acuity. And so while you are making a difference in that person's life at the moment, what I started to realize, especially when I worked on a neurology unit, took care of a lot of complex spine patients, people with high daily pain, and their quality of life is so low. I started seeing that the healthcare system that we have currently in the States, what we call the healthcare system, is often more of a Band-Aid, that there's so much before the clinic, before even you go and make an appointment to talk to your doctor, let alone you end up in a hospital for some reason. There's so much that happens, years, months, decades, of processes that occur that put somebody there. And a lot of it was avoidable.
Correct. Yeah.
And there's this big void of people not getting that care. And then I became one of those people. I was still working as a nurse. I worked multiple jobs. I worked a lot of night shift. I worked part-time jobs at a running store. I ran ultras to reduce stress. And I wasn't sleeping a lot. And surprise, surprise, I ended up having a lot of health issues come up. But I'd go to my doctor. My labs look great. Like my numbers look great. Everything looks great. And they're like, just rest. You just need rest. Like, just go home and breathe. You're fine. But I wasn't fine until all of a sudden I ended up burnt out, where I couldn't even get off the couch, let alone show up for a shift. And nobody had an answer for me. It was incredibly frustrating.
And that's a story we hear a lot, Stacey. Treating the numbers and not the individual is really hard. But how did getting to burnout and becoming a patient in the system, what clicked finally for you to say, I need to not be part of the problem and look for a way to become a part of the solution?
I think a big part of it is just that I've always been a type of person that if I go through something, if I end up in a dark space, there's no way I'm the only one who's gone through that. And I'm definitely not the first one. And I'm a firm believer that when you go through the dark and you find light, you shine really bright and you carry that light for someone else, because other people have done that for me. And it just made sense. And a lot of what I went through required so much resource. I'm talking thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars wasted and spent. And not everybody has that. It was very lonely. It was very isolating. It required a lot of resources. And I still wasn't getting the answers that I needed.
So go ahead.
I was just going to ask what changed? What was that next step for you?
Yeah. As far as
your next step of your journey. Yeah. So you moved into health coaching, but what was that next step? Like, did you Google? Did you, how did you,
I see what you're saying.
What was your next step that said, okay, I need to make a change?
It took a number of years. So, my burnout was almost, it's in June of 2025, it'll be a decade, where I admitted that I was burnt out, but I was burning out before that. And so, you mentioned I ran the Keys 100. I was burnt out when I ran that race. I didn't want to admit it, but I was. Like, things were not going well. I just kept pushing through. So at that time, I didn't have a solution. So I just kept on going. I was put my career thoughts on hold for a while because I was taking care of my son, who was working, doing high level hockey. So we're traveling all over the place. Being a hockey mom of a kid that's in a junior league is really intensive. He was in high school, but it was a lot of travel, a lot of doing the things, and then supporting my spouse while he was working his career. So, I was the family CEO for a number of years. And so that was put on hold. And then I felt like I was getting better because I could still go do these epic things. You know, I could still go run these ultras and stuff. And so I thought, because I'm fit, I must be okay. I can still go do these things. So therefore I must be okay. And then the pandemic hit. I got COVID the week before the world locked down. I live in Washington State. So I got COVID the week before we locked down. And I didn't end up hospitalized, but what happened is it got into my nervous system. And so from 2020 till 2023, I would get better and then get worse, get better, get worse. And it's really during COVID that this all started coming. You know, I remember lying on the couch thinking, if I make it through this, like, I'm going to live life so differently. And I'm going to stop letting fear get in the way. And so that started manifesting in little things. Like I sent you the picture of the open water swimming. It's not because I'm a great swimmer. I am a terrible swimmer. I am a very frightened swimmer. But when I was on that couch sick, pretty sure I was having a heart attack, but didn't want to go back to the ER because they were telling me, you just have COVID and we don't understand this. So stop coming in, please. You know, I was just like, I'm going to start doing things that I've always wanted to do that scare me beyond belief. And so open water swimming was one of those things. And so I just started doing that. And then I realized I don't want to go back to be a nurse. I don't want to go back to what we call the healthcare system. So I just started taking things that were helping me, certifications that were helping me get the information so I could feel better. It was all completely selfish. How I ended up here was just because I was trying to take care of me and nothing more than that. And I couldn't get the information from physicians or from I was doing naturopaths, functional med, acupuncture, you name it, I tried it. Crystals, sure, I'll give it a try. Like I was down for anything. You know, give me a placebo that works, I will take it. Like I was so desperate. Because if it works, who cares, right? And so that's how these certifications that are all over the place started racking up. It's because I was trying to get better. And then I wanted to return to sport in a different way because I'm what I call an adult onset athlete. I played a little bit of sport when I was younger, but I didn't really get into running until my 20s. It was completely out of stress. I don't have a big athletic background. Didn't understand training theory. I didn't understand that what I was doing was pretty dumb. Like how I was training and how I was functioning wasn't the best thing, let alone I wasn't resting and recovering. So the yoga, all that stuff was all selfish so I could feel better. And then it just kind of started coming together as I was having this desire to want, to get back into sport, to get back into running. I realized some of the coaches that I was trying to connect with also weren't quite what I needed. They were going to push me over the edge again. And then I don't know, it kind of came out of nowhere. We hear a lot of talk about resilience these days. And when we think about it, it's a lot of what's between our two ears, right. But we need resilience in our physical bodies because let's face it, it's our first and only home. If we don't have this, we have nothing, right? Absolutely nothing. You don't get to exist. And so it just kind of came it was born out of desperation for me wanting to live a different way, mentally, emotionally, but also wanting just to recover physically because I was so sick and nobody had answers for me. Still, nobody can fully explain the course of how the things that happened to me with COVID, where it affected my brain, it affected my nervous system. I had a situation in 2023 where it acted as if I had a severe brain injury. I had autonomic dysfunction. I couldn't control my heart rate. Every night I went to bed, I was pretty sure I wasn't going to wake up the next day.
Oh boy.
It was mortifying. And so I was just determined, like, I've got to find a way through, and I'm not the only person.
Yeah.
No. And Stacey, it's funny because you white knuckled for about a decade.
100%.
Yeah. And so many men and women, I'm going to focus on women because we hear this a lot from women, that we just think we don't have time to not be okay. Mm-hmm. And so you're hanging on the ledge by your fingertips and you're trying not to fall off.
Yes, 100%. You know, I've watched it happen when I go into healthcare, like with my son or my spouse, where I'm just in the room with them, and the way they get treated versus the way if I said the exact same symptoms. You know, the gaslighting is real. You know, patriarchy harms everybody, but specifically women. We have our own specific challenges. And then, you know, on top of all this, I started going through perimenopause. And so it's like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Can we add another thing on that nobody knows what to do about? COVID perimenopause. Awesome.
You've got it coming at you from all directions.
All angles. Yeah. You had no grace in that.
Yeah, so this was honestly born out of a lot of time. When I could study, I would study so I could figure out how to feel better. But there's a lot of months where I couldn't read, I couldn't study, I couldn't drive, I couldn't listen to music. All I could do was think.
That's scary.
It just started coming to me of like, okay, how do I build resilience? And then why aren't there people out there helping us learn to build overall health resilience? Like, I started Googling it. It didn't exist. So be what you need.
Be the change.
Be what you need. I love that.
Yeah. So, and Stacey, that's a great segue into, can you share a little bit about your coaching philosophy? It's interesting because Vesame, although we've known each other for, I feel like it's been 20 years.
It's been a long time, Daphne.
It started as a relationship where we worked. We moved into a coaching relationship, and now we're trying to share our stories. But coaching is so important in terms of, that coaching relationship and your philosophy around coaching. Can you talk a little bit about how your journey has informed that and what your strategy is for athletes that may come to you as a coach?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, you have to just be open and coach the person that is in front of you, and coach in a way where you show up as your authentic self and give space for the individual in front of you to be seen and be heard. Because I don't care what you're coaching. If you're a business coach, if you're a triathlete coach, whatever, we all come to the table with a series of stories we have been telling ourselves. Mm-hmm. Some of those stories serve us well, and some of them don't. And if you can't create a space for somebody to feel comfortable enough to truly be themselves and be seen and be heard, the person you're coaching will not get what they need. Mm-hmm. And you're not only wasting your time, but you're wasting their time.
100% agree.
Mm-hmm. So we've experienced, I think Daphne has, I have, you certainly have, there's just room for improvement, we should say, within our healthcare system. Well, I would love to learn more about what you would like to see changed in the system to be a more proactive approach. And I'm wondering, how can we help redefine it? I think I remember my one doctor said, you are responsible for your own health. Mm-hmm. So whatever you are feeling, you need to address it. I can't guess that for you. And she was right, because she knows that, physicians, nurses, any clinician see hundreds of patients a day. But you're only that one person for yourself, and you should take responsibility for your health. Mm-hmm. So I would love to learn more about what you would like to see different in the healthcare system. I know that's a big task, but just maybe small changes. I know there's a lot to change.
We could talk about this for the rest of the week. All day. I think it's just, there's so many different ways that could go about this. But I think the first and most important thing to acknowledge is that even with the current system that we have healthcare deserts. Just like we talk about food deserts, there are healthcare deserts. And that's becoming more and more so with the current circumstances that we are facing as a country of access to care. So there's not even equity and access to what is currently standing as our healthcare system. So that's the biggest thing I would like to see change first, because there's so many people that can't even get the most basic life-saving care. So I just want to acknowledge that first, because, I live in an area that's very well resourced, and I have a life that allows me to access those resources. And most people don't get that. So outside of equity, I would like to see what we define as healthcare expand. I think that is incredibly important. And what I mean by that is that there are a number of different worlds, and they're all siloed. We've got like the fitness world, we've got, the wellness world, and then we've got, our traditional medicine and then naturopathy and all these things. But then even with those worlds, they're very fractured and stuff. And, so, okay, I'm a health coach, right? It is the Wild West out there is for health coaching, and getting certification, and even just trying to find a good certification that you feel good about yourself as wanting to be a professional is not easy. There's very little standardization. There's very little accreditation. So one of the first things that I would love to see, even being a personal trainer, if you know how to take a test, most of these certifications that give you credentials to work in a completely different scope of practice, you just have to be a good test taker. Honestly, you don't even have to know the material. Like, you could just go test it out. And it's scary because a lot of people do that. So what I'd first and foremost love to see is these other little big worlds, like personal training, health coaching, have some standardization and a higher level of, something. Let's not make it so easy to get in the door.
Right.
And let's have some standardization. So that way, when I do actually get a provider that says, hey, you should strength train. Do you know why? Because you're in perimenopause and science says that this is what building muscle does for you, that physician would then actually have some personal trainer they could feel good about referring you to, and know you're going to get the results. There's this huge, there's all these gaps, and then there's gaps within those gaps. So I would love to see the fitness world, specifically the personal training and the health coaching world, get more standardized, kind of get their act together a little bit. So that way they hold, some weight. So the traditional medical world and them can start talking. Because you've got like the over-credentialed, as you both well know, of like the people that have been in it forever, in the medical world, the doctors, the nurses, even to be a nurse practitioner or a physician assistant, you have to have a PhD, like very, very over-credentialed, to someone that all you got to do is just figure out how to take a test and you get to do a new scope of practice. And those worlds need to work together, and they're not going to until, this level comes up, and then the other world just becomes more open to that, health means exercising, and what does that look like? And actually having physicians and care providers that can walk the talk. It's really hard to take advice from someone that says, stop running because this and this and this, when that person has never run in their lives and they're not active.
Right.
And they have no education on how running and lifting can help you. So you come in as an active person and they don't know how to care for you. They're like, just stop.
No, do not just stop.
Yeah.
And equity. So you addressed a couple of big things. Equity is huge. And we love talking about health equity because we keep talking about it, making impactful changes seems like it's taking forever. Equity that includes access, that includes getting rid of the deserts. That is a whole nother podcast that we could have and talk about that issue alone. The same thing with the siloing. I mean, I like to position the healthcare team as everyone centers around you. It may be your NP, your DNP, your PA, your MD, your DO, your naturopath, your personal trainer, your RDN. This revolving circle of care team, which should be the most highly certified group of individuals possible, need to be centered around you. But I agree with you. There's no standardization, and you can just take a test now and you can become a running coach, which is a little scary. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think just like healthcare, because incentives are misaligned, it's going to be a long time before that's going to change.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say it should be the redefined wellness check or your annual visit.
Yes.
Yeah. It needs to be redefined. And you as a patient should be, or me as a patient should be responsible for knowing my capability, what may have, started as certain change of life or, the next stage of life, like perimenopause or whatnot, so that the provider can holistically provide. But you're right. Absolutely. It needs to come back to the same level and be more cohesive, because day to day, we're not sick, hopefully we're not. And so how can we continue to proactively get better so that we can deter those typical chronic conditions, and it all starts there. How can we identify areas to just start now to care for ourselves? So Stacey, here's where this is my favorite question to ask our guests. What does a day in the life of Stacey look like? And I'm talking about like what time you wake up, what do you eat, what's your physical activity, and how much sleep, or how do you deter stress management if you're feeling that way? What do you do to enhance your mental and enhance and continue to have a positive mental health?
Sure. So we'll start with sleep, because I think sleep, there's nothing that improves sleep can't help. It's kind of the end all be all, like as far as getting better, maintaining health and well-being. And so sleep now goes really well for me. It didn't used to be something that was easy for me. I try to aim between 7 to 9 hours. Is that perfect? No. Like I think I got 6.5 last night. And, when I wake up varies. I try to be consistent, but I'm usually in bed by 8, and reading and doing a little meditation. Then I'm up between 4 and 6. So sleep is very important to me. I had to learn, COVID is when I actually learned how to sleep. I've never been a good sleeper. And I actually got the Whoop strap during COVID because I was looking for ways to understand my nervous system and how to get better and just to have some sort of data points. And so using the Whoop strap is actually what helped me dial in my sleep to the point now that I actually do get very high quality sleep. And it's invaluable because there was years where I barely slept. I averaged 3 to 4 hours of sleep for about 15 years of my life.
Oh, wow. Oh,
and that catches up with you. And so, and then other than that, as far as food, like what I intake, I've been a successful vegan, I like to say, since it's been about 8.5 years. I've tried to be vegan, honestly, since I was a little girl. It just never made sense to me. I should say plant-based diet, and now fully vegan. But I didn't want to eat animals when I was a little girl. Like it didn't make sense, but people kept on telling me that's the circle of life. It's what you need to do. And then I've gone through so many cycles of trying to be vegetarian or, vegan, plant-based forward, all these things. And then I would go to a healthcare provider. They're like, your iron's low. You need to eat meat, So it was just like that darn iron is the reason why most of my life I kept on going back to eating meat. But then I finally figured it out, how to eat healthy enough, eat variety of foods. It wasn't the fact that being vegan wasn't healthy. It's that I didn't, even on the omnivore diet, I honestly didn't know how to eat well.
Right.
So, you can eat like crap on any diet.
Exactly. Yep.
So it took me up until, my early 40s to figure it out, late 30s. And I'm also gluten-free. So that's just, and I try to eat, whole foods, as little ingredients as possible. I still love my junk food though. I don't believe there's any bad food. I had cupcakes yesterday. They were really good. They were store-bought and the ingredients list was very long and they were very delicious.
and that's okay.
Yeah. And then as far as stress or physical activity right now, so I am I live 2 days in a week. I do 2 full body strength exercises a week. And then I'm actually trying to work back up on build my running endurance back up. I'm starting from scratch. I'm starting as if I wasn't ever a runner. My fitness capacity is quite low, but over the last year, I have been just working on my strength in the gym. And what's amazing is despite, a year ago, I couldn't drive and I was struggling to do a lot of things. Being in the gym is what helped my nervous system heal. Like I started lifting heavy in 2021 as part of my healing process through long COVID. And I would feel terrible. But as soon as I got my hands on that barbell or I lifted what was heavy for me at that moment, there was something about my body. Like I would feel good while I was lifting. And then when I finished, I'd go back to not feeling so great. But I really do feel that getting in the gym, building muscle and lifting heavy for me was the biggest factor in my nervous system getting better. I can't explain it, but I know it was there. And so strength training is something I've done off and on since like 2017. I did what I call runner strength training, which is you do just enough to not get injured. But I didn't start lifting heavy till 2021. And it's my new non-negotiable. It's the most important. It's sleep and then food and then lifting. Those are my 3 non-negotiables. Because if I can do those 3 things, then it gives me more resilience, more pliability to buffer the things that are happening in life. So that's what I'm doing for physical activity. I am a person that tends to over-exercise, not because I feel like I have to earn my calories, because I just love moving and I don't know when to quit. So I actually have, someone who programs my strength. And even though I'm just running easy, I actually have a run coach who is programming my running. So I'm smart. Because I know myself, a lot of the times the biggest benefit we can get out of coaching is just somebody monitoring us. It's not that we don't know what we need to do. We just need to be monitored. So we do it. And then for stress, I think my biggest tool for stress is my breath. The thing that's always there for me. And it's just a super, super simple practice. When I notice when my stress levels are getting up or am I checking through the day, I just check in to see, can I feel the breath in my back ribs, in my lower back ribs? Because if I can't, that means I'm breathing up here. And I just sit there and I just try to breathe into my back, try to feel my whole rib cage, 360 expand. And that helps so much. But I do a lot of mindfulness and meditation apps. My favorite app right now is called Waking Up. I absolutely love it. And so I often will play it by my ear and I fall asleep to it. I wake up to it sometimes. If I wake up in the middle of the night and then my brain turns on, I just put on a meditation and I usually fall asleep to it. So I'm a firm believer. There's so many meditation apps out there, but I don't think it needs to be anything,
nothing
crazy.
fancy. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes just hearing a calming voice. So
100% agree. I love Day in the Life of Stacey. So Stacey, as we wrap up today, we have 2 final questions for you. And Besame, do you want to pop the first one?
Yeah, sure. So what is one thing you are deeply grateful for today, Stacey? Now you're on the West Coast, and so your day's just about starting. So
I've been up for a while. I got up.
Oh well, yeah. If you wake up at 4 between 4 and 6, yes, you haven't.
You got to run in and everything. Deeply grateful for specifically today.
Yes.
Or
it could have been.
Yeah. I am grateful for when people share themselves fully. And what I mean by this is, and being able to access, now, we can access so much information, which can be really overwhelming. There's podcasts, there's Instagram, there's books, there's all the old school ways that we used to get information, and now all the technological ways between, our little rectangles that we carry with us everywhere. But what I'm most grateful for is being able to have access to that people find what lights them up, and then those people go out and share it for the rest of the world. And then we can access that. That is what saved me during the pandemic. My life got very small and very insular, and my business wouldn't exist. I wouldn't be sitting here with the both of you if it wasn't for people sharing what they love, sharing their knowledge, and making it so others can access it. I mean, it's just phenomenal. It changed my life. It allowed me to learn and grow, to try to develop a new career. When those really, really dark moments, when my light was flickering and wasn't so bright, I digitally could just reach out to somebody else's light who was already shining, and they recorded it and put it out there so I could benefit from it. I'm just forever grateful for that. I've told a few of my friends that had our pandemic and me getting sick a result from the pandemic would have happened, we all remember before technology was around and, Instagram and phones and podcasts were readily available. I would have had a very different outcome. I wouldn't be where I am now. My light would not be able to be shining brightly. So I'm grateful that it happened for me specifically when it did. And I'm grateful for people sharing their bright light.
Love that.
Yes, I do too. And Stacey, what does 2 things? So I'm adding a question in here.
Okay.
What does joy before fear mean to you? And then we, at Perfectly Planted, we like to plant seeds of positivity and empowerment. What is one seed that you can plant with anyone so you can share your light with someone who may listen or watch this podcast?
Yeah. So joy before fear is a life philosophy that I put together during the pandemic. I've just, promising myself that never again would I let the fear of something not allow me to have joy. And that often the things that are going to light us up the most, that are going to bring the biggest differences, is there's going to be fear there. And that can you just consider the joy? It's not the fear is going to go away, but can you consider joy first before you let the fear keep on telling the same old stories? Can joy and fear hold hands while you go do the thing? Go do it scared and go get that joy. Create it for yourself, because if you don't do it, nobody else can create joy for you but you. And waiting for the right circumstance, you're gonna miss out. You gotta create it. As Brene Brown said, joy is the most vulnerable thing we can allow ourselves to feel. And it's also a very personal thing. And so we got to feel it inside first, take up space, allow joy to be there. And if there's one thing that I could leave with your audience, is that don't wait. You can always choose joy. We spend so much time thinking about the past of like, oh, it could have been this, and oh, I could have been, or remember when I was this. Cool. That's already written. You can't do anything about it.
Yes.
Try to spend more time here and now. It's never too late. There is, no matter what circumstance you're in, and sometimes you are alone. It drives me crazy when people say, oh, you're not alone. No, there are some really hard times when we are truly alone. But have your own back.
Yep.
Be afraid and choose the joy, and dare to be joyful. It is an act of rebellion, especially as a woman and a middle-aged woman. It is an act of rebellion. Take up space, strong back, soft heart, or what is it? What does Renee say? I love her. Strong back, soft chest, and wild heart.
Yes.
Go for it. Dare to dream, and then turn that dream into a plan. Who says it can't be you? And don't let your circumstances make you think that it can't. Just go for it.
That's great.
Amazing.
Yeah, I love that, Stacey. You take on such a unique and what I think should be what health coaching should be about, a holistic view into somebody's life and their overarching wellness. And also to continue to encourage to feel that joy, because we don't, as soon as we do, I'm a Brene Brown fan as well. As soon as we do, we feel, wait, what if that, nope, and then you start thinking, and then it goes away and you have this fear coming in. And so because you don't want to be as vulnerable. I would love for, if our listeners would love to get in touch with you, what's the best way of getting in touch?
Yeah. So because this is news, I do have social media, but there's no posts on them yet.
That's okay.
That's okay.
You just have to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So you can reach me through my website of, www.joybeforefear.com. You can, my Instagram handle for my health coaching business is Joy Before Fear, all spelled out, one word. And then I created an athlete page for myself because it's something, this is my joy before fear. Because if you look at a lot of athlete pages, it's always the after story, and it's always like of an elite person or whatever. But, my athlete page is about rebuilding, and about building joyful durability and trying to make that come back. And so that handle is Mud, Food, and Joy, MUDDNFUOOD, and joy. Just because, I just want to share my journey of me rebuilding. Ideally, I'd love to get back to ultras. We'll see if that happens, but I don't want to limit myself and just put myself in that box. So
we are not constrained by boxes that we put ourselves in or that others do.
Right.
Stacey, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun.
And I'd also like to thank all of you that are listening to us today. We hope that you're leaving with as much inspiration and actionable insights as we are. Stacey's journey from burnout to resilience shows us that true health isn't about just pushing through or by hanging on by your fingertips. It's about knowing when you need to pause, when you need to recover, and sometimes we need to rebuild from the inside out. So whether you're an athlete or a busy professional or someone who's striving for balance in life, Stacey's approach to fostering health resilience can serve as a guidepost. And I would highly encourage you to follow her on their socials, to check out our website, because she's an example of looking at what can happen when you get to the other side. Remember, her mantra is joy before fear. It's not about just crossing the finish line, but you have to enjoy the journey along the way. So if you'd like to learn more about Stacey and her work, be sure to check out the show notes. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with anyone who could benefit from these powerful insights. Thank you for tuning in to the Perfectly Planted podcast, where we strive to bring you the tools and stories to help you thrive every day. Be well.